Wouldn't it be nice to aim your guns and rockets instead of just guessing where they're going? Well, following my tutorial, you might just end up being able to do that. So, to go ahead and get our UserSkins folder, we're going to first open our internet browser and go to War Thunder Live. After that, we want to go to Sites and search for TheApotheCarrot. So there I am, and there's my mega pack because that's what I have it tagged under. So you can go ahead and go on in and check the current version, as well as any tips I might have. Here's everything that's included. The changelog. And if you would like anything, you may type it down here. I do appreciate getting likes and comments and all that, so feel free. So after we click download, we're going to go ahead and have it pop up here. When it's done, we're going to click Show in Folder. And now that we have our zip file, we're going to unzip it. And then we can just remove the zip folder. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and get into it. Now, if you know what you're doing with UserSkins, you can just take the contents of the folder itself and drop it on into your UserSkins folder, which is usually found under whatever disk you installed it in. In this case, for my laptop, it is Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, War Thunder, and UserSkins. However, if you do not have it installed that way and you can't quite figure out where it goes, I have made an auto installer for you. So the instructions are all in here. So you're just going to need to open our autoinstaller.txt, which was here. And we're going to visit the link, paste it in, and save it as a batch file. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and take this. We're going to copy. We're going to paste it on in here. And it'll take us to our script. So we'll start up here at echo off and copy down to pause. And then we just go ahead and highlight everything and paste it in. Go to File, Save As, click at the end here and type .bat. And now we can close that. And what that did is it created this batch file right here. So we just simply double click and it will install. And since my install is located in Steam, that's where I'd put it. If you have any questions about how to aim these sites, all you need to do is click on my profile picture and find the one you're looking for. In this case, I'm going to go back to my first one, which was my Typhoon. And here I have my aiming instructions, which I usually list the speed and dive angle, as well as any special instructions like using this little bottom notch here. Although optional, I do recommend installing War Thunder Real-Time Information. To do that, we're going to go into the UserSkins folder that you downloaded, and go into this one right here, and choose WTRTI profiles, which are ones that I personally have set up. So if we enter the README, it'll go ahead and tell you where it's probably going to be located, which is in your downloads folder if you're just downloading it for the first time. And we can go ahead and get it at this link, which we were going to highlight and copy. Here in our browser, we can go ahead and paste it, which will take us to their homepage. If we scroll down a little bit after their nice little intro information here, we can see that we can get the free version here. This takes us to a GitHub page, and we'll be greeted with these options. I am on Windows, so I am going to download the Windows zip. And once that's finished, we can go ahead and hit Show in Folder, and unzip our file. Once unzipped, we need to go in and start WTRTI for the first time. Doing so will populate all of these folders, and now we can begin. I'm going to close that for now and pull up a second folder with our UserSkins folder that you downloaded from me, and you'll notice that you have a profiles folder in your WTRTI profiles folder. All you need to do is copy, and over in your newly downloaded WTRTI, paste. Go ahead and combine anything. And now when we start WTRTI, you'll notice that we have a bunch of resolutions to choose from. So pick the one that matches your monitor. So in this case, the monitor that I'm currently sitting in front of is 1920 by 1080. And this will be a correctly configured version specific to that resolution. You're welcome to tweak them by going to this cogwheel, going to Group, and changing their position in pixels here, their scale here, and any other factors that you would like to change, such as the color. I chose green and yellow color schemes because I am colorblind and these two colors work well for me. You're welcome to set whatever you like. Remember to save your progress right here if you have made any changes. That'll also let you go ahead and change the name, that way it's not something that's labeled by me. And that's it. You now have access to real-time information anywhere on your display. This next section is completely optional. This is for the installation of something called ReefTuner Statistics Server, which is a frame limiter. If you would like to install it, it does have slight latency penalties. However, it is a significantly smoother experience compared with using VSync or just VRR. And other latency methods can be very inconsistent. RTSS provides the most consistent experience and can help solve any small stutters that you may be experiencing with WTRTI. To do so, we're going to go into the UserSkins folder that you downloaded from me, go into our WTRTI and RTSS profiles, and go into the README. From here, it goes ahead and gives you a little information on what you're going to be doing, as well as the download link, which we are going to copy. In our browser, we can go ahead and paste it. And now we can go ahead and get ReefTuner. After extracting everything from the zip file, you can go ahead and run the setup. Since I already have RTSS installed, I am not going to do this. Instead, I am going to pull it up right now. If you pull it up and it doesn't show up, that means it came up minimized. So you'll just come down here and find it. So when you're in here, you will only have a global folder. So to fix that, what we're going to do is find RTSS and go ahead and give it some profiles. So I'm going to go into our UserSkins, get to the RTSS profiles, and find the profiles folder. We are going to copy this and then go ahead and look for RTSS as an application. The easiest way to do this would be to open Task Manager, find RTSS while it is running, and open File Location. So now that we're in here, we can see our address for RivaTuner is C Program Files x86, RivaTuner Statistics Server. From here, we can go ahead and paste our profiles. Again, I am not going to do this since I have already done this. It will probably ask you to merge and go ahead and give you the aces.exe and WTRTI profiles that I have personally configured. In the event that you do not paste your own profiles, you need to go ahead and find War Thunder's executable, which is aces.exe, and you can find that using the task manager method we just used. And you need to ensure that the application detection level is on low, stealth mode is on, custom Direct3D support is off. This is very important. You may set a frame rate limit if you would like. I personally do like a frame rate limit when it comes to War Thunder, using RivaTuner rather than War Thunder. It is much smoother. We're going to go ahead and turn on-screen display support, and go ahead and pick our favorite font from the Raster 3D. Mine is Arial in bold in 12 point. We want the on-screen display shadow for visibility, and this display zoom is going to be something like this. Make sure it is all the way down, otherwise RTSS will cause WTRTI to be completely off-center from where it should be. Included in the install was also a WTRTI profile for RTSS. In the event that you do not install my profiles, you're going to want to add one and turn detection off. That way, RTSS does not do anything related to this program. Once that's done, we can go ahead and pull up WTRTI, go into the settings, go over to OSD, and we're going to change our OSD type to RTSS, which will render it using RivaTuner rather than WTRTI. If you have the Pro version of WTRTI, this will disable nearly everything that you paid for to have the Pro version, unfortunately. RTSS cannot render the complex 3D images. However, on the free version, this makes little difference. It just makes it a little more difficult to set up. I personally run it with RTSS on my personal setup. And once that's done, you may have to make some adjustments over in the position and scale if anything looks off to you. I would recommend saving a profile if you go ahead and make one for RTSS. To choose a user skin, enter the Customization menu and choose from the drop-down on the right. Make sure to fly in a test flight in order to ensure that everything works. Here is an example of one of my sites, specifically on the British Typhoon. On more recent revisions of my content, the indicated airspeed is shown on the left of the site and the angle of attack on the right. Either may be used, but the angle of attack, or AOA for short, is likely more accurate, as it helps to predict your flight path better. The WTRTI overlay assists in keeping track of these values to a great extent. In this example, my AOA is 0.8 degrees. I had planned to attack my target somewhere between 1 and 0.5 degrees, so I am in a good position to predict my impact spot. I am very close to my target, so I will be using the outer sections of the aiming boxes and tulips, as I like to call them, which are the dot-like objects that you see along the chains. For the Typhoon site, the innermost boxes and tulips are for 600 meters distance, the middle for 300 meters, and the outermost tulips for 200 meters. Since my distance is going to be between 200 to 300 meters when I fire my rocket, I need to make sure that I am done moving before I fire. Movement during firing will result in more erratic ordnance behavior. Something to consider during firing is that your wings are kept as level as possible, even through use of control surfaces such as your ailerons to prevent rise or fall, and that angular momentum, specifically from the rudder or elevator, is kept to a minimum. This will allow the markings on the sights to remain as accurate to your flight path as possible. More extreme distances can be used on platforms that support them. On the A1H using Zuni rockets, I will showcase a 7,500 meter shot that only missed due to my poor aim. In another example, these rockets can also be fired 5,000 meters before you even are out of contact.
Number 3, what do you have? Can't see anything, sir.
Cannon and gun sights are also available. The Italian P108A is sighted to 5,000 meters and is fully capable of hitting a tank directly. Gun sights may be used at your set convergence distance. Wing sights also have wing dissections on the sides to assist with aiming closer than your convergence is currently set. In order to start creating our own content, we're going to first visit the UserSkins folder that I provided and go to my version file. In here, you'll find a link to getpaint.net, which is the application that I recommend for doing all your editing in. It natively supports DDS files, which will be important later, and it's free and easy to use. Once on the paint.net page, you just need to download it either from the Microsoft Store, which I wouldn't recommend, or you can get it straight from them. After that, we need to get the War Thunder CDK, or Asset Viewer. Here on the wiki, you will go ahead and get a link for a development kit. Go ahead and download it, install it, and give it anything it wants. Next, we're going to make our own site. So, we're going to use the Typhoon as an example. We're going to go to Customization, and press this little wand here to create a skin. So it says that it's gone ahead and placed a folder with the information we need in our UserSkins folder. Here it is. And I don't want it to be called that, so I'd like to change the name to Test Typhoon. In here, we will see these items. We have no need for these as we're not changing them, and they're just wasted space. This file is what tells the game that we're working on the Typhoon Mark 1B late. In this file, we will notice that it says about this, 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 and this. These were the two files that were originally included, but since we're not using them, we have no need for them. We can delete the second one as it's not necessary. Everything must start with this, and every section, such as this, every texture you replace, must have this bracket at the end. Do not mess up this format, otherwise it will not work. In order to get things going here, we're going to use the War Thunder Asset Viewer to find what we're looking for. In the Asset Viewer, we see that we have some options. We don't want to dig through these, so instead, we're just going to search for the Typhoon. And in here, we see that we have a couple sections. Package Cockpits Aircrafts is what we're going to want to go after here. And here we have the Typhoon Mark 1B Late Cockpit. And we can have a look at all used textures on this side. And what we are looking for is a collimator. So, we can go ahead and take this name and just double check that it's the right one by going into our filter and typing collimator and having a look at all the collimators in the game. In this case, we were after the Type 1 Mark II collimator. Keep in mind, we are not after this Type 1 Mark II. We're after the one that was indicated using eyes. We are also not after the N3A collimator, as it looks the same, but it is not. So after we found the one we're looking for, we're going to go ahead over to here and export to DDS. This step is unnecessary if you already have files that you can overwrite instead. We can go ahead to Downloads and save. So in our Downloads folder, we're going to take that along with the picture we'd like to use, assuming that's what you're doing, and we are going to move them over to our UserSkins folder. Now, we need to tell the game what we're replacing. Since the name of the collimator is Type 1 Mark II collimator, we're going to copy that name and replace here. It is very important that this asterisk is kept. It tells the game that it is looking inside itself, not in the folder, as this line tells it that it is looking in the folder for a TGA file. Although that's also not what we want. So what we're going to do is rename this to Shrek Typhoon, because that's what we're doing. We're going to open it in paint.net, along with our reference image. So in here, we're going to go ahead and just delete everything. and replace it with the color black. This indicates transparency. And now we're going to take the image we want and copy it on over. Pasting it in here, it complains about needing to expand the canvas. You can do this if you would like. The game will resize everything back down to 512 by 512. So make sure that you keep it in that scale. So 1024 by 1024 and so on and so forth. We're going to keep the canvas size and just accept whatever comes over. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and save. And we'd like to save it in BC3 without diffusion dithering, perceptual aerometrics, generating bitmaps in a bicubic format without gamma correction. We can also remove our reference image since we have no need for it anymore. And now we need to tell the game what exactly we're doing. So I'm going to copy my name here. And I'm going to tell it that we are replacing the Type 1 Mark II collimator with ShrekTyphoon.dds and save. Back in our game, we're going to hit this button to reload. And here's our test Typhoon. And when we load in, we should be greeted with what we just created. In all its horrid glory, there it is. Next, we'll take a quick look at how to fix a gyroscopic collimator. So we're going to find the C Fury in the asset viewer, which I already have pulled up, and find out what exactly it's using. In this case, it has a K14B collimator and a Type 1 Mark II collimator. In this example, the K14B is the gyroscopic portion that's moving around, and the Type 1 Mark II is the stationary portion that does not move at all. These are both collimators that are used simultaneously. When we look into how to change these effectively, we find that we need to either disable one or the other. To make a fixed collimator, we put empty collimator with an asterisk in order to indicate that we do not want anything to show up and we just want a native black image. And then we go ahead and replace the Type 1 Mark II collimator with our own custom fixed site. Alternatively, to make it gyroscopic, you need to replace the K14B, in this case, with your own custom gyro. Now, when it comes to the fixed portion, we do not want to tell it to be empty, as this will allow it to repeat everywhere. Instead, we want to create our own black file, which I, in this case, have named blank.dds. And remember, it looks like this, because this is how we keep it from repeating. Normally, when planes fly using something like a gyroscopic collimator, they exhibit no issues at all. However, when given a custom collimator that is not given any special treatment whatsoever, they will exhibit what is called repeating or tiling. In my sites, these are a non-issue for the most part. However, they do still repeat, but it is not as noticeable due to the area being much more limited. In order to achieve this, you will need to do a little bit of editing. When it comes to your typical site, you have the entire area in black in order to represent transparency. However, this will allow the site to repeat itself. On gyroscopic sites specifically, you are going to need to create a file called blank, or whatever you like, and then trim out the area that you would like it to go. Using my already complete example, I can show you what I mean. This area represents the area in which the collimator is allowed to move around on the canvas. Notice how much smaller it is than a normal, fully colored image. This will prevent rendering outside of the black area, which is counted as transparency. This area out here is called alpha. You may create alpha by selecting an area and hitting delete on your keyboard. Remember, when you're done, share your content. If you don't put it up, nobody's ever going to see it. If I never put my content up, nobody ever would have encouraged me, and I probably would have stopped after one or two. You simply have to upload a zip file, any images you want, and type a description. You can also put hashtags in. Hopefully by now you feel confident in your ability to use or even create aircraft sites. Remember that familiarity and weapon maintenance crew skills allow for more potent attacks. I hope to see more rocket enjoyers in the battlefield alongside me. Leave any comments or questions here, but please make any requests on my War Thunder live page. Until next time, have fun.